of the head of the Department of Consumer Advocacy. And one of the major reasons is because she was pushing a political agenda, because she called all Republican liars, which at the time the people that would have been in charge of her reappointment were 5 Republicans.
Thank you, Bob. Gentlemen, of those appointments confirmed by the council in recent years, which ones do you disagree with? Bob Burns, 1 minute, please.
Yeah. I've got a few. Jim Bassett would be one of the places that I would start. Now, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with his appointment there, but I do believe that he was pushed through way too fast and without enough public vetting. I think that he did have a background of political activism, and quite frankly, what I would have found as being some of his views is slightly unconstitutional. So that would be one of the issues that I would look at. And again, and I'll reiterate, I think that when you do look at these appointments and nominations, that they do need to be truly vetted, and I just think that this is something where the council's been lacking on.
Thank you. Chris, 1 minute.
Well, I wasn't privy to all the discussions and all the deliberations of the council, but I'll say that the council made a mistake in firing essentially our state's consumer advocate, Meredith Hatfield. She was a strong, outspoken, person who was speaking strongly for ratepayers and consumers in our state, and the council decided to block her renomination as our state's consumer advocate because of her advocacy, and I think that's the wrong tack to take. Bob brings up Jim Bassett, who is now sitting on the state Supreme Court. Bob feels that because Jim Bassett had supported the Brady bill as a Republican candidate for Congress in the early 90s, that he should be eliminated from consideration to sit on the judiciary in New Hampshire. I think that's really the wrong tack to take. Really, we shouldn't be applying these litmus tests, and I hope that folks like Meredith Hatfield and Jim Bassett and others like them will be able to serve effectively in state government.
Thank you. Bob, 30-second follow-up.
Well, and again, I mean, I feel like I'm hearing double talk here, because Meredith Hatfield was a well-known political activist and spoke out very harshly against all Republicans with inflammatory language. She failed over at the Bow power station with a scrubber that cost twice as much as initially was supposed to cost, where she could have caught these issues to begin with. I believe it was it's supposed to be a $200 million project, which turns into a $400 million project. I don't believe that we should have these people in there rewriting the...
Thank you, Bob. Chris, 30-second follow-up.
Sure, I think she was serving effectively, and I think that the council has significant power to say no. And the council also has the power to work with the governor to make sure these positions are filled. And unfortunately, the position of consumer advocate hasn't been filled after Meredith's renomination was voted down, and I think that's a shame.
Gentlemen, moving on. If you'd like water, please make sure you're comfortable up there. You're doing a great job. This is a long question, so bear with me, and Chris, you'll be the first person to answer this. The Executive Council plays a vital role in improving the state's infrastructure, especially roads and bridges, via management and oversight of the state's 10-year highway plan. What are your surface infrastructure priorities, and, if elected, how will you ensure the transportation infrastructure of the Greater Manchester region, the business capital of the state, receives its share of transportation maintenance and upgrades? Chris, 1 minute, please.
Well, good roads and bridges are the lifeline of any strong economic region, and I think it's important that we support the priorities of this region first. The widening of 93 has got to be top on the list of things that we need to get completed in the next several years. It's at the top of the list in terms of the 10-year highway plan, but the council has the role to set the other priorities as well. And when you look at the challenges of this district, 60% of the state's population lives within 30 miles of Manchester, and so we have a lot of roads, a lot of people come to work in Manchester, a lot of big towns on the outskirts of Manchester, including Bedford and Londonderry, and we've got to make sure that the priorities for towns like Bedford, such as the widening of 101, are completed as well and put on that 10-year plan. If you've ever sat in traffic on 101 at 5 o'clock or been on Route 28 during rush hour, you know what traffic can be like in some of these communities. They're overstressed, and we've got to make sure that our transportation dollars are going to supporting good roads and bridges in this region because it not only has a quality of life impact, but it has a significant economic impact on businesses and families.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. Bob, would you like me to reread this? That was a long question. It'll be 1 minute. It's your turn. The Executive Council plays a vital role in improving the state's infrastructure, especially roads and bridges, via management and oversight of the state's 10-year highway plan. What are your surface infrastructure priorities, and, if elected, how will you ensure the transportation infrastructure of the Greater Manchester region, the business capital of the state, receives its share of transportation maintenance and upgrades. 1 minute, Bob.
Yeah, sure, absolutely, and I really agree pretty much with everything that Chris said. The widening of 93, 101 are very important. Manchester is the center of New Hampshire. It is, it's between all our major cities. I think that it's absolutely important. We've seen a lot of great growth. The new Raymond J. Wazorek Bridge go in recently over to the airport. I've been flying out of the airport for the last 10, 15 years for business, and it's been a wonderful thing, and I think that we're really on track. I would love to speed up a lot of the construction projects around here. I realized that even the bridge, which we were waiting for years, was only sped up a little bit because of federal dollars that we ended up receiving in the end. So yes, I absolutely plan on making all of the road construction projects around here a top priority, and I do believe that this is the most important region of the state for our businesses to thrive.
Thank you. Follow-up, 30 seconds. Chris Pappas.
Sure. I think working with our federal delegation is also very important. We've seen the Garvey bonding process going forward that's allowing the 93 expansion to be completed, but that's also sacrificing future transportation dollars to make sure this important project gets done today. And when we look out in the out years and we see transportation dollars drying up, we've got to make sure we have the right advocacy at the federal level, and working with our senators and members of Congress is critical in making sure they understand our transportation priorities and work hard for the funding.
Thank you. Follow-up, 30 seconds, Bob Burns.
And again, I don't think that probably improving our roads and bridges is one of the things that we're not going to find as a partisan issue. I couldn't agree with Chris more, and I think that our federal delegation, is out there to work to bring these types of dollars back. I wish that we weren't sending them to the federal government to then beg for them back in the first place, but that's the game that we play, and I fully support it and plan on trying to bring as much money back to support these projects as we possibly can.
Thank you, gentlemen. Let's get a little personal. What do you think?
Sure.
We'll dig down a little bit. And Bob, we'll start with you if we may. Bob, on your website, you noted that you received the endorsement of the Republican Liberty Caucus, and you promised to, quote, restore a liberty mindset. What do you mean by the phrase liberty mindset? Bob Burns, 1 minute.
It's very simple. Live free or die. This is something actually my opponent, one of the few people probably in New Hampshire, has actually advocated for getting rid of the live free or die motto. I bring that live free or die sense. I see Chris is making a face. In the Hippo Press, he said that we should get rid of the live free or die motto because that people who support allowing people the freedom to smoke in their own private businesses, meaning restaurants, we're going to use the live free or die motto to support this. And I believe in that. I believe that we should have the freedom. And that's the type of liberty mindset I'm talking about, is just simple personal freedom. It's everything that this country was built on, and it's everything this state was built on. And it was summed up by General John Stark. Live free or die.
Thank you. Chris Pappas, 1 minute.
I'm responding to his personal
Yes, you
question?
are.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, in that piece in the Hippo that you referenced, I want to make sure that our state motto encompasses all different points of view in New Hampshire. And I think it can't be used as an excuse not to fund our priorities in New Hampshire and not to support the best interests of our communities. And so I hope that Live Free or Die does embody that, and I do support it as our state motto. But in talking about some of the support you've gotten in the past, Bob, you've been supported by the Liberty Caucus and the Tea Party groups, and that's fine and great. It actually helped you win your Republican primary. But it did so at the expense, I think, of unity within your party, because you criticized your two primary opponents for being too moderate. You went after them with anonymous Facebook ads and by impersonating them on websites. And so I think that type of political discourse is not what we need in Concord. We really need to get back to a point where we can all be working together and be putting these sort of political arguments and these divide and conquer strategies aside.
Thank you. Bob, that would be a 30-second follow-up for you, please.
Yeah, I can start with pot calling kettle black. Unfortunately, these are the type of tactics that you and your counterpart, Raymond Buckley, have just been known for, these underhanded, shady attacks. It's actually funny because the first knowledge I even had of my opponents giving money to Democrats like John Lynch and Jean Sheen actually personally came from you, who had told me that, which I thought was kind of interesting. You mentioned that I was supported by Tea Party organizations. Actually, not a single Tea Party organization supported me, and in fact supported many of my opponents.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Chris, 30-second follow-up.
Sure. You know, I'm proud to have built a broad-based campaign in this race. We have support from across the aisle. I have more than 40 registered Republicans that have endorsed my effort, and more that tell me behind the scenes that they're excited to vote for me. I have the support of some members of organized labor as well as the National Federation of Independent Businesses. And I think building a broad-based grassroots effort is what I've been all about in this campaign, and it shows the type of leader I'll be on the Executive Council. I want to be a uniting force and bring people together. That's the type of campaign I've run. I've been proud of the bipartisan support, and I want to work that way in Concord, too.
Thank you. Okay, Chris, it's your turn. Chris, on your website, you criticize the current Executive Council for, quote, putting politics ahead of the people's business, and pledge to, and again, I quote, never let a political ideology get in the way of doing what's right. Can you give us an example of a time when you have taken a stand contrary to your party's ideology to do what's right? 1 minute, please.
Sure. You know, as a member of the Democratic Party, I've long opposed sales or income tax in New Hampshire. And, you know, that goes against some of the party orthodoxy of many people in my party. But I think it's an important thing for fiscal responsibility and to maintain an economic advantage in New Hampshire. And going forward, I don't have a problem opposing my party on certain beliefs that they may hold. I have no problem, you know, bucking the party and working with Republicans on issues. And I hope that there are Republicans in Concord that don't mind doing the same thing too. Because I think, as we've heard recently, especially from these economists that spoke before the chamber, the only way we're going to solve our long-term problems is by doing it together. And that requires both people on both sides of the aisle to be able to push their party ideology aside, push their political agendas aside, and put the interests of New Hampshire first. It might be a hard thing to do, but folks in Concord have got to do it, and they've got to do it in an effective way in order for us to grow our economy and address our health and infrastructure needs.
Thank you. Bob, that would be 1 minute.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's funny that Chris says that he's always opposed an income tax, even though while in the legislature, he also opposed putting a constitutional amendment to ban an income tax forever, leaving a back door open to a future income tax. Chris has received a 100% rating from the AFL-CIO in the past, one of only 4 legislators a year that he received that rating. He's also received the endorsement of many lobbyist groups and special interest groups, including the LGBT Victory Fund, which one of their major issues is transgender issues. I brought up and posed a question of why would an organization that focuses on things like transgender issues even want to get involved in an executive council race? And as we've seen recently down in Massachusetts, a federal judge even ruled in favor of the state paying for a transgender sex change. I have to wonder why these organizations and these lobbyist groups would want to get behind Chris if they don't have any actual agenda.
Thank you. Chris, 30-second follow-up.
Sure. I'm very proud of who I am, Bob, and I'm proud of the campaign I'm running. And I don't think this campaign should be about creating straw men to go after, as opposed to talking about the issues that are important to people in this state. As I said, I've created a broad-based campaign. It has the support of both labor and business. And I think we need leaders in Concord who are going to be unifying elements in state government and are going to be able to bring people together. And again, I think this campaign of division and divide is not what we need. We need to come together, and we need unity.
All right, thank you. And Bob, 30-second follow-up, please.
Well, again,